This attack actually takes place in Sydney, Australia, where the suspect, Monharon Monis, walks into the Lindt cafe at around 9:45 a.m. and takes 18 people hostage. While he's taking those people hostage, he also says that he has a bomb on him and he's willing to explode it. In this particular incident, though, that was one of the things that the police kind of use as their excuse of why they didn't do certain things and so forth. Now, he takes off his cap, or he takes off whatever he's wearing on his head, and he has a bandana of the Islamic State on his forehead. He was considered to be extremist terrorist at that point in time. Obviously, 911 calls are coming through, and now the police department is responding. But to the credit of Sydney is that they have a tactical team. I don't believe they call it SWAT, but they have a tactical team that's also responding to this particular incident to hopefully diffuse it, while it's happening.
I mean, what starts to happen inside the cafe, and then with all of law enforcement that start responding?
So regular patrol officers get there, and of course, because of this incident being a hostage situation, their tactical unit comes out as well. Now, they set their sniper up at a distance away, but the unfortunate part about all of this is the simple fact that communications were not happening. It was a breakdown in communication, which resulted in 2 people unfortunately dying. This standoff was 16 hours. During that 16 hours, believe it or not, there were 2 times the actual hostages escaped themselves. They made a daring escape. They got out of the cafe. They were contacted by law enforcement officers, obviously, and they started to give information about the hostage taker. That information never got relayed to the sniper. At one particular time, the sniper had a shot of the terrorist. He literally could have taken the shot and been successful, which that would have meant that no one would have died. There were some judgment calls on his side, but a lot of it was attributed to the lack of information that he was getting or not getting from the command post.
What happened next? Did anything happen with the hostages or the sniper?
The hostages that escaped, they told the police that they did not see any evidence of a bomb. Going back to our sniper, he's truly watching this suspect for over 10 minutes. He has a shot for 10 minutes. At a point in time, Tory Johnson actually texts one of the people outside, who shows the text to a law enforcement officer, that the terrorist is sitting by himself at a table, kind of like, it's time for you guys to do what you do. Eventually, the terrorist gets upset for whatever reason. He gets upset. He grabs Tory, and this is witnessed by the sniper. He puts Tory on his knees and he executes Tory right there in front of the sniper. When you listen to the sniper's story, he says he lives with the regret for not pulling the trigger. The laws that apply in Australia are not the same as laws that apply in California, but when you listen to the story, they're almost the same. When you watch stories about SWAT operations and the sniper says, I got a shot, they don't need permission to take the shot. I don't think people realize that. Me as a SWAT commander, I don't say take the shot if you have it. It's no, based upon our case laws here in the United States, the use of force case laws, a sniper, just like any police officer, can take someone's life based upon certain criteria. Those same rules apply in Australia. Now, he said initially he didn't take the shot because there was no immediate threat to life. You as a police officer have to start asking yourself, there is a hostage taker.
And you have hostages.
You have hostages. So there is a threat to life. He also says that the part of the bomb being on him was one of the factors of why he didn't pull the trigger. When that information about there not being a bomb, that information was never relayed to him from the command post.
What happens after the fact of Tory Johnson being executed?
Another hostage escapes. The terrorist becomes angry. He starts to obviously do things that cause the police to say it's time for us to move in because this is going to end in more loss of life. So they siege the actual cafe, which results in an officer-involved shooting. Well, unfortunately, one of the baristas by the name of Katrina Dawson, who was hiding, not only is she hit by fragments, I believe up to 7, but she was also hit by 10 bullets from the law enforcement officers. You as a police officer know we're responsible for every round that leaves our gun. We just don't get to run in and start shooting randomly at different things. So I particularly would love to see the report about were they truly the officer's bullets or were they any of the suspect's bullets. But regardless of the fact, 10 rounds is a pretty significant thing. And unfortunately, this all ended, obviously poorly because of the simple fact that 2 innocent people who just went to work in the morning to serve people their coffee were subsequently executed. Just a host of different mistakes made by the police department. You and I both know that when you have a hostage situation, you got to have a plan in effect. It's called an HRT. And an HRT is we have an arrest team. This is when we're going to signal that we're going to go in. And usually when you hear that gunshot, it's like, that's it. Everything everything's done, negotiations are done, we're going in. And it doesn't have to be a SWAT team that always does it. It can be patrol officers because SWAT is being activated. It sounds like there was no plan formulated. It sounds like they were waiting for, because of this whole bomb thing, but even when they had the intelligence that there wasn't a bomb, it's just like one just mistake after mistake after mistake that unfortunately resulted in 2 innocent people dying. Now, ultimately, the suspect was killed. That still does not bring back
The 2 people.
the 2 innocent people.
Where we work at, we have radio, so anytime any information is given to us, we try to update everyone as quickly as possible because that could change the situation. For a sniper to not get that information,
I don't think it was a lack of their technology. I think it was a lack of people wanting to share the information or feeling that they needed to share the information. That's the problem.
and those are important, very important things for someone to know.
I truly believe the people at the command post are ultimately responsible for this because as the intelligence came in, that intelligence should have been shared with everybody
Absolutely.
out there, because that me as a police officer holding my gun at an open or at a window gives me the information that I know maybe I need to take the shot. That's where a breakdown in communication ultimately resulted in 2 innocent people dying. And it's just so sad because you think about it. You wake up in the morning to go to work, you know, you're serving coffee and you're talking to people, that pleasurable morning, and you're killed. And then unfortunately, one person was killed by a terrorist, but to be killed by the very people that you think are going to save your life, that does not sit well with me at all.
I mean, I can't imagine how both of those families must feel, especially one knowing that, like you said, the people that are there to save you are ultimately what were your downfall.
Yeah, there was actually, I think, up to 3 people that also suffered gunshot wounds. That's the other unfortunate part, but kind of hope that maybe they took this as a lot of lessons learned.
After listening to all of this, I mean, this is a lot, you know, a very sad story. So what things can we take away from this moving forward?
The part that I'll give them some leeway is they thought that the terrorists had a vest bomb. Okay, I get that. But in the hostage rescue that I was involved in, we made a decision that if the hostage taker opened the door one more time, we were going to neutralize him. And we did. He opened up the door. We neutralized him before he could kill his son. That takeaway for me is the same thing with this, is that everybody must know their role, and they need to know their role ahead of time. You need to know your rules of engagement. I think we're really well versed here in the United States about our rules of engagement because we also know that if we take an innocent life, we could subsequently go to jail for manslaughter, and that weighs in the back of our mind, especially in these days. Knowing what you can and cannot do is really important. Training is really important. Communication is ultimately important because you just got to share information, because if everybody on an incident, and that's the thing that when I was a SWAT commander, we had total radio communications. Everybody knew what was going on, and then when we formulated a plan, that plan was given out to everybody, so everybody knew. That's what is needed here. That's what was needed there. So that's the takeaway, is that we got to continue that. There's no one person on an incident that's not important. Everybody's important. So that way we can minimize any loss of life, especially for the innocent people that we're trying to rescue. Well, that was a little solemn, so let's try to end with some smiles, everybody. If you love this content, definitely follow Chef Fire on both Facebook and YouTube.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks. And the suspect, Mana Hormone, and a Monas, that's his last name. Okay, this in Sydney, Australia, or Monharan Millions. Monharan, okay.